I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing the Bordeaux expansion for Viticulture from Stonemaier Games. This will be a fairly straightforward review, a fairly short review, because there's not a ton to go over. This is a board expansion to Viticulture. It gives you a new board, as well as some rules changes and adjustments to change up the gameplay experience that you might otherwise have. If you've played Viticulture, this is going to feel like Viticulture with a new board and some new elements. Let's get into how those elements work, what you can expect to see here. First of all, you have some face-up spots for certain decks, specifically the Vine cards, as well as the Order cards. You have face-up decks giving you less randomness when you draw. The Visitor decks are still going to be the same. You're going to be drawing from them and have a discard area, and if you are playing with the structure cards from Tuscany, you can go ahead and still incorporate those. Those will just be off the board, just have a stack of them off the board, but you draw from them the way you regularly would. So the first change is face-up decks to reduce randomness from these specific decks. Then you have the trading element. Making a trade is slightly different than typical Viticulture. Instead, you have this trade board. When you make a trade, or a +1 trade as it were, it's also worth noting, by the way, I'm assuming you know how to play Viticulture when I go through this, so if you don't, this is not necessarily the most useful. But you make a trade over here. The way that works is you go to here and you pay something in this column. For example, I could pay $3 and I can gain a point. I'm lying, by the way. I'm the kind of person who always pays a point to get $3 because I don't need those points. I want the money. I'll get the points later. But you mark off the trades as you do them, whichever trade, discard 2 cards, get $3, and those trades are locked off. Other players cannot take advantage of those. That's going to be a change from the way trades typically work in Viticulture or Tuscany. Speaking of Tuscany, you also are familiar with the turn order chart. This is something that you'll be familiar with if you've played Tuscany, the way you kind of have a turn order chart that gives you bonuses as you move from season to season. Again, if you've played just Viticulture, this is new. If you've played Tuscany, that concept is present, although the specific chart is different with different bonuses, some more to this board, but just different bonuses you have in the game. These bonuses everyone can get. You can age wine, you can age grapes, you can age wine, refresh some of the card markers over here, but basically it gives you an assortment of bonuses you get as you move from season to season. These are so far smaller changes. Also, you start over here with you start on 1 on your residual income track, small things like that. But the main change you're going to be looking at, the main 2 changes, I guess I would say, is the main thing is you are going to be having these expert spots on the board. That's all these locations are exports. Specifically, when you go here with a worker action, this action is hire an expert. Pay $2 and hire an expert. You take one of your markers, these aren't supposed to be on the board, these are your own individual markers, and you mark any one expert field on the board. For example, you can go over here and mark that. You are the only person who has that spot. That means when you go to this spot with a worker in the future, you and only you will benefit from this ability. If you play only one visitor, you may change an or to an and. If you know the visitor cards in Viticulture, that is a big deal, but the downside, the flip side of it, is you can't play 2 cards and do that. You'd have to play 1 card, take the extra money or whatnot, play a single card, and change an or to an and. You can go over here and you can do a build 1 structure. This spot over here lets you build a structure, but now you can build 1 or 2 structures, and additionally getting victory points for having a bunch of structures in the game. You only have 4 experts. Once an expert spot is taken, it is locked off. No one else can get there. Pick and choose your experts very wisely early on in the game and build your strategy around those. That is going to be the single biggest change in terms of the feeling you get as you play through Viticulture, or specifically Viticulture Bordeaux. You have this incorporations of experts that change the way you approach as you plan through your worker placement spots in the game. Although speaking of changes in strategy, another thing that's going to change is normally in Viticulture, you have the opportunity to buy or sell fields, which can represent a nice cash influx of, well, an influx of cash, a nice cash influx at the cost of having fewer fields, and you could possibly buy it back later, things like that. In this case, you only start with 1 field. You start with a 6 field, and the 5s and 7s can be purchased, but you cannot sell your fields in Viticulture Bordeaux. It changes some of the strategies some players might engage with, in which making wine is one strategy to win, but not the dominant strategy. Viticulture Bordeaux kind of forces that to be a little bit more central to the way you play the game because of the way it all comes together. That's going to be the main changes you're seeing over here. Again, this is basically a new board for Viticulture, incorporating the same worker placement structure across the 4 seasons that we've seen introduced with Tuscany and all that. You're playing through 4 seasons of Viticulture with the general rules. Again, it's fully compatible with all the expansions until now, with that aspect, again, holding a deck on the side. If you're not playing with the structures and you draw certain cards, if you're not playing with Tuscany, when you're drawing the new structure cards, you disregard those that reference the star chart that you might be familiar with in the lower left of Tuscany. Basically, it's a new board for Viticulture. What's my review of this? I like it. It's a fun new board for viticulture. My favorite thing, obviously, is going... Well, I say obviously. To me, my favorite thing, obviously, is the experts. Having new abilities you get, I like that. I like that a lot because it allows me to kind of work towards specific worker placement spots that I want to be more competitive over, and it forces me to consider strategies early on and then lean into those strategies because of the efficiencies it provides. If you combine that with Tuscany, as I definitely have, then again, between your starting structures that you can build and the experts you go for, you can really build a strategy that is uniquely yours in this game. So if you like viticulture, I don't think this really takes away from the experience, unless if you're someone that didn't like the process of making wine and you mostly had fun from trying to figure out ways to gain points outside of that. This kind of does focus you down that lane a little bit, so that's the only reason you might not like this, I guess, compared to a standard viticulture game. Whether you prefer the Tuscany board or this, like, I'm kind of 6 of one, half dozen other. I really like the star chart in Tuscany, so the small elements there, but I do like the experts over here. So there's things I like about both boards. It does not drastically change up viticulture for me. It's kind of like playing Ticket to Ride with a new map. It's still Ticket to Ride, it's just a new map. The one thing I don't necessarily love about the new board, I'll say, is that from all of these experts here, these 16 expert spots, and this might come down to just my own personal playstyle, but like I find about half of them I am really interested in, and the other half less so. There's a bunch of spots over here that I just can't see myself realistically ever really caring that much about. This spot over here, refresh the grid and take a point. That's just not fun. Is it strategically sound? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Does the math work out? That's fine. Maybe. I will never, I'm not even never so stretched, but I don't see myself ever buying that expert. And there's a bunch of others that just don't lean into my personal strategy the way I enjoy these games. And so that's the one kind of ding against these, because they are so static and fixed on the board. I almost wish that there were like a set of different experts you had for each spot, that each spot had like 3 experts and then you picked a combination of them. That I would find so satisfying, because it wouldn't be a static list of experts, it would be a dynamic list of experts, and the combinations therein could really introduce a whole different way to approach this game every time you played it. That said, that's not what this expansion is. That's just almost what I wish it did. As it is, I still like it. I still enjoy it. I do wish it was less of a static roster, both because of the fact that I appreciate dynamic strategy, and also because of the fact that some of them I just don't care for as is. But overall, as far as rating and final thoughts, I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. To be very clear, I rate expansions not based on how good the overall game is, but what I think they added to the game. This is a fine expansion. You do not need this, especially if you already have Tuscany. I think you are getting a prime viticulture experience. This is a nice to have expansion if you're looking for more variety in your viticulture games, and if you like the idea of those experts. I do not think it's a must-have. I think if you like viticulture enough, it's a nice extra thing to add to your collection. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. Hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.